a Russian diplomat.
The Obama administration was still in power when Flynn reportedly had phone calls with Russian ambassador to the U.S. to talk about then-President Obama's newly instated economic sanctions. If true, Flynn's conversation would have been considered a breach in diplomatic protocol. Flynn denied the sanctions talk ever took place, and in mid-January, then Vice President-elect Pence defended Flynn. Now a spokesman for Flynn is walking back that previous denial in a statement to the Washington Post saying Flynn, quote, indicated that while he had no recollection of discussing sanctions, he couldn't be certain that the topic never came up.
Fox's Kristen Fisher. The Northeast is still recovering from a winter storm that dumped significant snowfall this week. Now another one could hit some areas.
Upstate New York stretching over to Maine, all areas throughout the day on Sunday and into Monday where we could be seeing some of this snowfall and at times, fairly heavy snow.
Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz. 5 people are dead, dozens injured after clashes between anti-government protesters and Iraqi police in central Baghdad. 2 of the dead are police officers, 3 are protesters. You're listening to Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Weather.
The official FM NewsTalk 97.1 Weather Center. Forecast mostly cloudy and mild tonight. We'll have a low of 44 degrees. And tomorrow, breezy and cooler with clouds giving way to some sunshine. Your high temperature 53 degrees. Colder tomorrow night, partly cloudy, but pretty much where we should be with a low down to 30. Nice on Monday with some sunshine. We'll have a high temperature of 50 degrees. Meteorologist Dave Samuel for FM NewsTalk 97.1.
Trending on FM News Talk 97.1.
I watched this and they say I was kidding. Believe me, the wall is getting designed right now.
Stay connected.
Senator Sessions. He is a disgrace.
And the senator is warned. Let's not go down this path. Devolve into nothing but a jungle.
How the matter is handled in the courts.
This is...
I can't even believe it. We're having to fight to protect the security of our nation.
FM News Talk 97.1. Younger, smarter, better.
FM NewsTalk 97.1 presents Psych with Mike with Michael Mahon. Brought to you by Royal Gate Dodge. Royal Gate Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram with the largest inventory of new Dodge vehicles in St. Louis. Visit them in Ellisville, Missouri or Columbia, Illinois. Online at royalgatedirect.com. This is Psych with Mike.
Good Saturday evening, St. Louis. Welcome into the third Psych with Mike, brought to you from the Royal Gate Dodge Studios. So we are now into our third session, our third show. I call it a session because I do therapy for a living. And hopefully people are enjoying what we're doing. Just a recap of what this hour is. This is Psych with Mike. I started appearing on the Dave Glover Show about a year ago and am now doing my own thing. The idea here is that we're presenting information that people can use in a way that is understandable and approachable. If you have anything that's on your mind, the phone lines are 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. And my Twitter is at Michael Mahon 72. That's MICHAEL MAHON 72. And last week, we ended the show talking a little bit about neurobiology. So just so everybody is aware, what happened was that I put some information up on the Twitter page that are some diagrams of a neuron and a synapse and a page about neurotransmitters. Just a quick review of that. The neurons are the cells in your brain that actually allow you to think and feel. And then the synapses are the spaces between those neurons, and neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers that actually tell those neurons what to do. And as we go through the show, we're going to use that as the foundation for a lot of things that we talk about. So anybody who has any questions about that, you can either contact me on Twitter, you can find me through the internet and send me an email, or you can give us a call. Tonight, we have a very special guest, at least for me, a very special guest. Brett Newcomb is going to be with us, and Brett is my, for lack of a better word, mentor. He brought me into this field. He would tell you that he taught me everything that I know, and I would have to tacitly admit that there is probably some validity and truth to that. And so we are going to have some good conversation tonight about what therapy is and what good therapy is. That's my whole goal, is to try and help people to understand what therapy is and what good therapy is, because there are a lot of places that you can get therapy, and some of that is really, really good, and some of it is not. In the end, the best therapy is the therapy that gives you what you want. So that is, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But I thought we'd start off tonight bringing in a new subject. So we haven't really touched on politics on the show, but there is the issue of the travel ban, which has been pretty present and persistent in the nation. And I thought maybe we could start off tonight having a little bit of a discussion about that. But my take on that is to talk about what the psychology of the travel ban is. So there are two camps, at least two camps. So people who want a travel ban, people who don't want a travel ban. And both of those camps are very polarized in their thinking, but also in their speech. And one of the things that I say, you may have heard me say this before, someone who is delivering a passionate message is probably not talking about a fact, but is talking about an opinion. And passionate messages are designed to be persuasive. And sometimes that takes us out of actually being able to think hard and deeply about a subject, because we are listening to the message and we are being persuaded rather than actually listening to the message and contemplating and meditating ourselves and coming to our own conclusions. So I thought we would talk a little bit about the travel ban to start off with. And my ideas about that are this, that the psychology of that are based on the issue of cognitive dissonance. So cognitive dissonance is the inability for the human mind to hold two conflicting thoughts simultaneously. So people have a lot of existential fear that other people could come into this country and do us harm. But the truth is, even people inside of our country can do us harm. So that is a persistent threat. And what we think is, okay, I could somehow mediate that by not letting people into the country. So for people who are in favor of the travel ban, the psychology is that it reduces my cognitive dissonance by having the travel ban, because people aren't coming into the country. Therefore, I am less afraid. That reduces my existential anxiety. On the other side of the coin, those individuals who don't support the travel ban would say the travel ban doesn't keep me any safer, therefore I'm not safer, and so now my existential anxiety has stayed the same or escalated, and so that creates greater cognitive dissonance. And so there is real psychology behind every political issue, and one of the things that I want to do with this show is to stop the rhetoric for just a minute and actually talk about what the psychology is, because my goal is for individuals to be able to draw their own conclusions. So when I am in a classroom, my goal is not to force everybody in my classroom to think exactly the way I think. It's to present information and then let individuals draw their own conclusions. So Brett Newcomb is here, and I'm going to bring him in now. We actually had been talking about this subject a little bit, about the travel ban and about what our ideas were about the travel ban before we came on mic. And I know that you have some ideas about that. So is there any part of what I had said that you would disagree with or reframe?
Well, I don't think I would disagree with anything, but I would always reframe what you have to say, but probably in an objective way, not a passionate way. When you talk about cognitive dissonance, what I think about is the resolution in music from dissonance to consonance, and the fact that the human organism is built to always try to return to homeostasis. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about waves of emotion and passion. And you approach this conversation from trying to learn to be objective and fact-based and present facts for people's consideration. And I would suggest to you that many people, if not most people, don't want to be bothered by facts. Don't give me the facts. I already know what I think. And what they should be saying, according to your rubric, is I know what I feel, what I'm passionate about, and I'm speaking from my feelings because they believe in the revealed word. The revealed word of whatever politician they've been listening to, or the revealed word of whatever religion they belong to, the revealed word of their agenda, which may be an agenda that's driven by a childhood script. You know, you learned as a child that these people were good, these people were bad, and so no matter what kind of data you run into that would counteract that, you don't allow yourself to experience that data.
So let me ask you, would you say that people have an ability to draw an individual conclusion, or would you say that they are finding comfort in the fact that there is certain rhetoric that is being given out by someone that matches a script that they carry from childhood, and that makes them feel comfortable?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I do think they can be taught to do this sort of thinking and this sort of analysis, but it's a level of effort and training that most people are not willing to expend or don't have an opportunity to learn.
So what would it take for them to be able to transcend that scripted thinking and be able to think more objectively, draw a different conclusion?
I think it would take what you're trying to do with the show. I think it would take learning the process to distinguish between facts and opinions, learning some things about logic and argumentation and debate, how persuasive speaking works, how people sell you things that you're emotionally attached to, the symbolism, the methodology of advertisement and propaganda. They would have to study some of those things and then learn to recognize it, have a red flag go up when they are exposed to it.
So I'm listening to this, and then I'm thinking, okay, so in your opinion, based on, because I know that I just for the record, besides you having been a professor of mine and bringing me into a private practice situation, we hang out a lot together. Right. We're friends, and so I know that you are a avid consumer of news, that you watch a lot of right. political news. So based on your observation of that, do you believe that there is a way in the current environment, would there be a way to be able to present a message to people that they would be willing to listen to that would not be based on an agenda?
No.
Okay.
No, I think it's counterintuitive. I mean, the people that have an agenda are selling. Mm-hmm. I want your vote. I want your contribution. I want your following to let me lead you where I want you to go, where I think you need to go. And they manipulate passion. They threaten with the other. The other is bad. The us is good. And the other is keeping us down or preventing us from having the life that we deserve, that we were born to have. And they manipulate people that way. And so the mass of the population is not going to be exposed to that, especially in today's news media 24/7. If they allow themselves to fall into that pond, they're not going to get out of it. It's like tar baby.
I'm really glad that you had mentioned this concept of the other. That, for me, is central to the travel ban. My fear is that when we say, hey, the other could come into the country and cause us harm, that what we're really doing, because statistically that doesn't happen.
Well, no, you look at the facts. The facts are that you're much more likely, any one of the people out there listening, you or I, are more likely to be shot by a toddler in the United States than we are to be killed by an Arab terrorist.
Right.
So, I mean, statistically, there's not even remotely a parallel.
But if we focus on the other, then don't we leave ourselves more open to what is legitimately the threat, which would be internal?
Well, historically, I mean, Adolf Hitler, Ayatollah Khomeini, Donald Trump, any politician that you want to name has the other. In part, they say we have to be afraid of the other so that citizens in the United States, at least the way our system works, don't focus on the facts of where's the money going, who's getting rich, who's making the profit, who's losing. We avoid that even when we have a legitimate concern and have some knowledge about it, because it is overridden by the immediacy of the threat. And the threat is we're going to be bombed, our wells are going to be poisoned, our water will be bad, our babies will die, whatever, if we don't stop the other. So then you don't have to worry about the fact that you don't have roads that you can drive on, you don't have schools that educate your children in a way that you would approve of or desire, or that you don't have a sewer system or water supply in Flint, Michigan. You know, why are our politicians not solving our problems? Well, because the other is out there. And if we can just come up with a ban and prevent them from getting in and put a wall around the country, then we may have time to do that, and money.
So, again, I go back to what would be the solution. If we don't focus on the other, then what do we do?
That's a real challenge. That's why we are lost at the moment. So we look for a savior. We look for someone to lead us out of the morass. And someone presents himself and says, I can be your savior.
So we have Carol on the line who wants to talk about people who are followers.
Okay.
Hey, Carol.
Hi, guys. Fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
I don't know. I'm no expert, but I've lived on this earth 50 years, and basically understand that most people are followers. And people who know this manipulate that, and they introduce pain or pleasure when you go outside those boundaries. That is the groupthink, gestalt, whatever you want to call it. It's been proven. I know you guys are probably aware of tests that have been done that establish that. You know, you go outside the, quote unquote, normal standards, and it's a very powerful thing.
Right.
I think a lot of the schools today, their curriculums, they don't teach you how to think; they teach you what to think, and that's just even more firmly established when you get out of school.
So let me ask you, Carol, do you think that people want to be followers, or do you think that they want to be independent thinkers?
Interesting question. I would have to say, why do people associate? I would think that they associate being maybe an outsider. That's what I consider myself. Because I've never fit in, but I wouldn't be any other way. It presents some painful situations. There's, I think, a lot more less painful situations when you go along with the crowd.
Aristotle says in his book on politics that there are natural leaders and natural followers, that there's something inherent within our character.
Thanks, Carol.
That makes us want to be a leader or causes us to surrender our independence and be a follower. So the challenge then has, if you look at what are your natural characteristics, what is your potential to be a leader, how as a follower do you select the leader that's best for you, then you have to frame the discussion about what are you looking for? What in life makes you happy or meets your needs?
For me, I think that there probably is a lot of comfort in being a follower, because if you are an independent thinker and something goes wrong, you have to take responsibility for it. And if you are a follower and the whole thing blows up, then, it's not my fault.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that is the safety that there is safety in being a follower.
So maybe one of the fundamental psychological drives that we have is a drive to be safe, to make ourselves safe.
Well, of course. I mean, so Maslow, talked about that is the most innate psychological drive. So we have to go to our first break. Before we go to break, you guys probably know, if you have listened at all, that I am presented by Royal Gate Dodge. So this week at Royal Gate Dodge, there are some really, really fantastic things that are going on. Any new Dodge Dart is up to $5,000 off. So they are just blowing out the pricing. Any new Chrysler 200 is up to $9,000 off. And if you enjoy a little bit larger vehicle, any new Ram 1500 crew cab, so that's a nice truck, is up to $10,000 off. And as always, when you go in, if you mention that you heard about them on Psych with Mike, you get the Royal treatment. If you want to know what that is, you can look on my site or just go down to Royal Gate and ask them, but you won't be disappointed. So thanks, and we will be back on the other side of the break.
This is Psych with Mike. Follow Mike on Twitter at Michael Mahon72.
Dependable weather.
Clouds take control today. Chance of a couple of spotty
with Fox 2 meteorologist Dave Murray.
Brought to you by Air Comfort Service. Time to get your furnace ready for cool weather. For a furnace tune-up or new furnace estimate, see their specials at aircomfortservice.com.
This is Sean Vincent at Vincent Mortgage. For decades, you've heard my dad saying 839-9999. But I also want you to know that Vincent Mortgage can offer you no cost for your appraisal if your loan doesn't close, the best competitive rate, and close your loan in as little as 8 days. Only at Vincent Mortgage. But Dad was right. You got to call 839-9999. That's 839-9999 or vincentmortgage.com.
NMLS number 225095. 12801 Flushing Meadows Drive, St. Louis, Missouri 63131.
Hey, I know you're way busy, but hang with me for a sec. This station, the one you're listening to right now, the one you keep on your first preset, yeah, this one. With the Next Radio app, you can take it with you wherever you go. So remember that time you went hungry because your friends all wanted to go to lunch and you needed just another couple minutes listening to this station, so they left without you? Or that next time when you got lunch but walked away just before they did that thing on the radio everyone was talking about the next day? It doesn't ever have to happen. With the Next Radio app, this radio station goes with you wherever you go. You always have your smartphone anyway, so make the most of it. I know what you're thinking, but when I stream, it kills my battery and uses up my data. And I hear you. I get it. But the Next Radio app isn't for streaming. It's over-the-air radio that uses the FM chip in your phone. It takes way less battery and almost no data and brings you this radio station the way nature intended. Free. Download the Next Radio app from the Google Play Store and keep this station with you. Next Radio. Live and local, wherever you go.
Oh, fresh powder. I'll get the skis.
Ugh, I can't.
Winter nasal congestion. Is it A, cold, B, sinus pressure, C, allergies?
I'm not sure.
For all of the above, the answer is D, Allegra D, a maximum strength decongestant, plus a powerful non-drowsy antihistamine for 24 hours of relief.
Feel better?
Yep. Feel like racing?
Hey, wait!
This winter, the answer is Allegra D. Look for Allegra D at the pharmacy counter. Use as directed.
Take an ordinary putty knife and scrape off the old wax ring. Place the new wax ring over the flange, then line up the bolts with the bowl and gently set in place, making sure a proper seal is created with the flange and drain. Next.
Dad?
Yeah, sweetie.
Is that an old plumbing manual?
Oh, yeah, honey.
We really need to get some new books.
Right, do you want me to stop?
Nah, I kinda wanna know how it ends.
Okay. Tighten the bolts, line up the flushing valve to the opening in the top of the bowl, and secure the tank with a screwdriver and crescent wrench.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Senator Sessions as the next Attorney General of the United States of America.
Keeping you informed and up to date.
I appeal the ruling.
Jack, the senator will take her seat.
Owes Senator Warren an apology?
Vetted this order, deemed it was legal.
The news and talk station for St. Louis.
I think it's a sad day.
Likely going to the Supreme Court.
Security is at risk today.
FM News Talk 97.1.
Does nothing to make us safer.
Younger, smarter, better.
Follow Mike on Twitter.
Feeling about that, how do you enjoy it? Do you think it is a good technique to use? Do you think it's used too much? What is your experience?
Well, when I first learned to do it and started to do it, I was really excited about it. And then I began to pay attention to whether or not it was accomplishing what I hoped that it would accomplish. And it changed my perspective, and I used it less and less. What I found was that it was most useful with clients of mine or patients of mine that had anxiety issues and their anxieties were out of control. And we wanted to work with them on reducing their anxiety because of the energy drain and the thought blocking that occurs with anxiety. So you can do hypnosis, which you teach them. You have to reassure them because it's an anxiety provoking thought to be hypnotized for most of us. So you teach them that. A, I can't put you under if you won't let me put you under, and B, I can't do anything that wouldn't be acceptable to you or you'd come right out of the trance. And C, if I fell dead of a heart attack after I put you under, then you're not going to be under for the rest of your life.
Right.
You'll just wake up at some point and say, I'm thirsty, I have to go to the bathroom, I'm going home.
Right.
So you want to reduce the fear element or the anxiety element of the concept of hypnosis. But it is not magical. I can't just hypnotize you and say, oh, you'll never be attracted to blondes again, and have that be the case. What I can do is help you to learn how to regulate your anxiety. There are a number of people who have used hypnosis for memory recovery. They created a concept called the false memory syndrome. It's legally very fraught with danger for the therapist and for the client because of false accusations and stuff. In my experience of trying to use hypnosis to recover memories, what I found was that people got the memories, but then when they came out of the trance and we had the conversation about the memory, it didn't feel like it was their memory. It felt like it was a show they had seen or a book that they had read or what have you.
So
it
you're
wasn't
saying
healing.
Okay, so then they didn't feel it. So it was that they had an intellectual ability to say this is something that happened. Did they experience it as happening to them, but were detached from the emotion?
Yes, it was like I used to own a pair of saddle Oxfords. It didn't really mean anything to them, and so it didn't address their underlying issues around whatever the problem was. They have to be able to remember it and feel it. And so then there are different ways that you conceptualize that treatment of taking them into the trance and bringing them out and having them process what they experienced and taking them in and bringing them out and having them process what they experienced. It's the processing that's the key, but it has to be owned. You can't just put them in a trance. I remember years ago I had a friend who had a horrible childhood. long story short, he was a young child. His mother, only single parent. He had a younger sister. She was a sharecropper and was harvesting crops, and he had to take care of his young sister. He lived in a tent. He saw rats eating his sister, created a crisis. So he was horrified by that. He didn't remember that entire year of his life. So under hypnosis, he was able to recall it. A tape was made. It was played for him. I didn't do that. Somebody else did that. He knew the story. He knew the facts. It meant nothing to him. He still couldn't remember the year. He had to do the work of therapy and get strong enough and safe enough to afford the memory. What I tell my clients is, you will remember when you can afford to remember.
Right.
And hypnosis is not a trick way to get you there and jumpstart the process.
Right. So it isn't, and I think that there are a lot of people who think this, it isn't a panacea where, I'm going to go and I'm going to get hypnotized and my life is going to be better. But one of the things that I've really wondered, and so I'm obviously very, very new to this, and I'm excited to actually use it in some instances, but I'm reluctant to overuse it. And one of the things that I am wondering is its effectiveness to try and work with repressed or suppressed trauma. Because a lot of people want that as a modality, a treatment modality for that kind of specific issue. So have you found that to be effective for that?
Only in the way that I started the conversation, in terms of reducing their anxiety and let them sneak up on the memories, if you will, and let them process what they remember. And in doing trauma work, which I did extensively, have done extensively, you basically have to say, you have to understand as the grown-up you that whatever the child you did to survive, whatever they experienced to survive, doesn't belong to you. The responsibility, the onus for that is not on you. It's on the perpetrator. And so the shame or the guilt or the fear that you remember doesn't belong to you, and you can actually take it off and put it down, like clothes you've outgrown. But they have to do that simultaneous to developing strength, developing a commitment and a safety to their, I mean, you use words like inner child and adult self. I mean, the labels bother me because they become popularized in the jargon, and they get out in the community and people are using them. So I don't want to get hung up on the terminology, but basically you have to learn that the grown-up you can honor the child you that did whatever they needed to do to survive, and then can have the strength to allow you to make choices in your life and not be controlled by your abuser 40, 50, 60 years later.
So what about trauma that isn't necessarily, I, as a child, was the victim of a person? What about trauma that, because some people,
you see an automobile accident, somebody dies.
Yeah.
Or your dog dies or gets run over or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can block that out, and that we repress memories, and we repress them as long as we can't afford to remember them. And so whatever needs to happen for us to get stronger, when we get stronger, then if we need to remember that, we'll be able to.
I think that I like the way that you said that, is that we repress it for as long as we need to
repress it, yes.
And that so the work in hypnosis could be to reduce the need to repress the memory so that the individual
I used to have a phobia about dead bodies. I couldn't go to funerals. When I was teaching school, I had in 7th grade class, had a boy drown. Fell through the ice and drowned skating on a pond. I couldn't go. I went to the funeral home, but I couldn't go in. I stood outside. I spoke to his family. It was sad and tragic, but I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't go to a funeral that I had to go to, like my grandfather's funeral. I had to stare at a section of the ceiling and try to make myself go away so that I could get through it without a panic attack. When I did the work that I needed to do to process that and get stronger, what I remembered that I had repressed was when I was maybe 5 years old, my aunt had taken me on a train trip to Shreveport, Louisiana, for the funeral of a relative I'd never seen and didn't know. And then in this room full of sobbing, crying adults, she had made me go up and kiss the corpse in the coffin.
Wow.
And that had...
And you had no conscious memory of that.
no memory of that at all until I did the work that I needed to do. and suddenly that memory came, and it's just clear as a bell. I can see it right now.
And so if someone had, through hypnosis, regressed you and you could have gained access to that memory,
it wouldn't have meant
wouldn't have had the power that it did when you came upon it yourself.
Exactly. Where hypnosis would have been helpful to me as I was looking for the memory was in quieting my anxiety and quieting the panic attacks in my body. And a good therapist could have helped me stay in the place, be connected. I mean, there are different analogies that you use, like here's a string, hold the string. You know, I'm connected to the other end of it. You're safe. You're in this room. You know, stuff like that. I mean, there are a lot of different ones. That would have been helpful, but guiding me to the memory would not have been helpful at all.
Right. So for people who think, oh, if I go and I get hypnotized, I can recover all the lost memories that I had in childhood, that probably, A, isn't accurate, and B, even if you could, probably wouldn't be helpful.
Exactly. And then the flip side of that, or the other piece of that, is for neurobiology, if you have a brain trauma, if you have a head injury, you're not necessarily going to get that back. If those portions of your brain were
that's
damaged,
a great point. Right.
That's not coming back. So a car wreck, you may remember leaving the house, you may remember waking up in the hospital, you'll never get that hour in between back.
So even if that were your goal, that wouldn't be a realistic goal.
Because it's not there.
So the
Somebody
therapist,
erased the tape.
Needs to be able to say that may not be, this treatment modality may not work for that instance, even if that's what you want.
Yeah, so we started this conversation you and I were having before we went on air of how you or any therapist who got this certification would offer it clinically as a valid treatment modality.
Right.
And so I think any clinician needs to ask themselves first, with this specific client and the issues they're presenting, how would this help their therapy? What would it accomplish?
Well, I think that for me, the what I would be not afraid of, but what I have seen, let me say this, what I have seen is that clinicians go out and they get a technique, whether it's EMDR or hypnosis or whatever, and then they do it.
New toy.
That's all they do,
Yeah.
right? And so everybody who comes in, that's what they get, and when it's not effective, then that is something that people are like, well, that wasn't effective. Well, no, because it's not the right modality for
them.
Yeah. So we are going to go to our second break. Before we do, just wanted to remind you guys about Herbie's. So I've said this a couple of times on the show. The old Balaban's became Herbie's Vintage 72, has now moved out to Clayton and is in the old Cardwell's location. They are going to have some really fantastic things happening as we get closer to the springtime. If you haven't been out to the old Cardwell's location, they have an unbelievably fantastic patio. If you ever get out to Clayton and it's a nice day, I certainly strongly encourage you stopping by Herbie's and sitting out on the patio because it is just absolutely beautiful. They've got new awnings coming in, and hopefully there is going to be a fire feature that is going to be added before the weather breaks this year. So they're working through. I don't have anything to do with them. I say we, like I'm on the part of the trip. But they are going to get some permits to be able to have this fire feature installed, and it is looking fantastic. So go out there, ask for the owner, Aaron Teitelbaum, tell him that I sent you, and they will take great care of you. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Someday you'll die. Them know you realize that life goes fast. It's hard to make the good things last.
This is Psych with Mike.
It's just an illusion caused by the world spinning round. Do you
Log on to 971talk.com/Allman and you can watch the show live on the Arrowhead Building Supply Studio Cam.
Use your mobile device or computer to join the All in the Morning live stream.
Arrowhead Building Supply Studio Cam, 971talk.com/Allman.
At the moment, it's hard to imagine cranking your air conditioner, but as mild as this winter's been, that'll happen sooner than you think. When it does, you'll pray your sleepy AC will crank. So here's what you do. Call the Fix-It-Right guys at Jerry Kelly for a quick, get-ahead-of-the-curve AC tune-up. For being proactive, they'll tune you up for just $89, which is more than 30% off. So get cranking and call us or visit jerrykelly.com.
JerryKelly.com.
Hey, Allman here, proud to represent a world-famous name with world-famous food to make you a world-famous home cook. How about Blue Apron? BlueApron.com. And I got to tell you, they are number one in fresh ingredients delivered to your home. For those of you who are finding it hard to stop by the grocery store on your way home from picking up the kids from school or on your way home from work or whatever, but you want to provide your family with great home-cooked meals, Blue Apron is indeed your ticket here. And how about some spicy shrimp and Korean rice cakes, pork chops, garlic piccata, mushroom and chipotle pepper enchiladas, all that you can make at home with fresh ingredients delivered to your doorstep. Check out this week's menu. Get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/almond. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. That's blueapron.com/almond. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college, which ends up making the future better for all of us. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
My name is Meera Batra. I have been in this country 32 years, and this is how I live united. America has always been the land of promise, and in my community, many families have come for a better life. Coming from another culture myself, I know the desire to become part of a community, to feel at home, and to gain the tools for our children and families to succeed. So I advocate for these families with United Way. United Way empowers them to look beyond their histories and to see what opportunities are available. We help them get involved with their kids' schools, network within the community, and when we do, we unite them. We make the community stronger. What I do is something I wish someone had done for me, and I am so grateful I am able to. My name is Meera Batra. I help families see opportunities and succeed. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
This is Stacey Washington, host of Stacey on the Right. Every Sunday night, I'm bringing the Second Amendment update and all the truth needed to arm you for the week. Everything you've come to love, every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on FM News Talk 97.1.
Talk lines are open now, 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. This is Psych with Mike.
Welcome back into the Royal Gate Dodge, Ram, Chrysler, Jeep studios. We are here with Psych with Mike. Phone lines are open, so if you have anything on your mind, give us a call, and we will get you on the air. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about before we got out of here tonight is you are doing some work with a physician locally named Kathy Mahon, who is on the absolute cutting edge of hormone replacement therapy. And I know that you guys have a book out. Why don't you pimp the book?
Well, Kathy and I have written a book called The Secret Female Hormone, and it discusses the hormone replacement therapy concept. She talks about the hormonal systems in the body in the book, and talks about what the concept is that as you age, your system begins to break down, and that breakdown opens the cascade or floodgates for the illnesses of aging. And if we can find a methodology to decrease or diminish the occurrence of that, then you can delay the onset of issues that everybody associates with aging, like osteoporosis, osteopenia, loss of libido, being fragile, not being able to stand upright, muscle strength, all kinds of things. So men regularly get access to the hormone testosterone.
Right.
Women don't.
Right.
Because most people don't realize that it's a female hormone. So she wrote this book for women and for their doctors. We sell it to a lot of doctors who then either give or sell it to their patients. It's available on Amazon.com. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. We are writing another book on men and hormones to balance what we've had to say about women.
So this idea of men having this replacement treatment obviously is well established in the consciousness of our society. But people don't think, if they think about it for women, they think, oh, she's gone through menopause and she should go get something. And usually it's a female-related hormone like estrogen.
Well, it's kind of a new concept. Yeah, estrogen or progesterone.
Right.
The concept of testosterone for women is one that's a breakthrough that Dr. Mahon has been on the leading edge of, because they don't think about testosterone for women. And so when women go through menopause and they start to lose their libido, they start to put on weight, they start to feel bad, they lose their energy, they feel like they've lost themselves, and they go to their gynecologist or they go to their regular doctor and they say, what's wrong with me? And the doctors historically have said, well, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just getting old. This is just what happens to women when they get old. That isn't true, and it doesn't have to be true for you.
Well, and we don't accept that. If you're a man, you don't accept a doctor saying, oh, well, you're just getting older, you just have to live with it. We'd say, no, give me something I don't have to live with it. So this idea that it is okay for women to be able to say, no, I don't have to just live with it, that is a newer concept, a newer way of looking at it.
The other thing that sets Dr. Mahon apart, she has, in her years of practice using hormone replacement concept, has used all the different delivery modalities of testosterone. And various modalities have different side effects. The one that she uses now exclusively that doesn't have the side effects is pellets. They insert pellets into the fat tissue of your hip. It creates a self-demand reservoir, an on-demand reservoir within your body, just like a natural system. These are completely bioidentical pellets. And over 3, 4, 5 months, depending on the dosage and your size and metabolism and so on, your body draws on that as it needs it. And so you have...
So, okay, I'm sorry. So how long is that good for?
For men, typically 6 months. For women, 3 to 4. It depends on your size, weight, and metabolism.
And so then that's because we're all familiar with gels or shots.
Not gels, cream shots, sublinguals. That none of those work as well. And
because you get the big spike, and then
and you have the first pass.
You get the fall off.
Yeah. So she has a system, and she's not the only doctor that does this. The other distinction that I'd like to talk about with Kathy is that she trains other physicians to do what she does, because her practice is not a mass volume practice. Her distinguishing characteristics are her ability to diagnose and her ability to dose appropriately for the issues that you have. So
the thing for me that is well, I want to say most present. It probably isn't the first thing that most people think about. They think about, bone density and muscle mass and things like that. But for me is this idea that there's the difference between a neurotransmitter and a neuromodulator is that things that can act on the brain that are produced in the neurons themselves are neurotransmitters. Things that can act on the brain that are not produced in the neurons are neuromodulators. Every hormone in our body is a neuromodulator.
Right.
And so these chemicals have a real impact on people's mood.
Right.
And we're spending lots and lots of money to go out and get all kinds of antidepressants and live on these for the rest of our lives. And a lot of this can really be benefited by what you're talking about.
What many of her patients find is that doctor visits and prescription meds that they have been on, they can come off of and not have the visits for, so that it pays for itself.
Right.
More than it pays for itself.
So would that even affect red blood cell count for women as they get older?
Not red blood cell that I'm aware of.
Okay. So, like women who take iron pills and things like that, it doesn't reduce their dependency on the iron pills.
You're asking me for medical information that
all right,
I don't
all right.
have.
That's fine.
That's not
That's
my
fine.
area.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. But as you were talking about that, I was thinking, because that's one thing for women, that as they get older, they get light on the red blood cells, and I could see how that could have an impact, but we would have to ask Kathy that
You would
question.
have to ask Kathy, and she'd talk to you about it till your arms fall
Yeah.
off.
Well, maybe we'll have to have her on sometime.
Yeah, great.
So your experience with this is that these women come in and they hear this message, and because you actually deal more with the psychological side.
Right. My experience is women come in and they get this experience, and then they bring their husbands in. They say, you have to treat her. I get a big kick out of telling everybody that my doctor is a gynecologist.
Yes,
because I get these treatments from her.
Right,
as do almost all the people I know.
Mm-hmm. And so once people go in and they meet her and they start these treatments, is this the rest of your life? Do you do it like 5 times and then you're good?
You can stop anytime you want. And people that are on the bubble, like, I don't know if I want to do this, they can do it, and they'll experience a change pretty quickly in a few days. And then they stop doing it and they go back to what they had before. And so if you don't have any energy and you feel bad and you're moody and you can't control your weight and you don't have a sex drive, and you take these treatments and you get your pellets and you have all those things change for the better, and then you stop taking them, you go back to where you were. You can always go back.
But there would be no reason why, if a person feels like this is beneficial, that you couldn't continue that.
She has people in their 80s and 90s that continue to do it. There's one gentleman that she talks about who owns a lot of property in town, and he always wanted to take care of it himself when something needed to be painted or something needed to be fixed. He became ill. He was in a wheelchair. He couldn't stand on his own. He came in, he got the pellets, and now in a matter of a couple months, he was back on his feet. He was walking. He's not using a walker. I don't know how much repair stuff he's doing because he's in his 80s, but he's moving around, and he doesn't need a walker or crutches or a wheelchair, and that's not an uncommon experience. My wife, her gynecologist is kind of on the bubble about this, whether it's good or not. He wasn't critical, but he wasn't open.
Right.
And she took her bone density test from him years ago, and she had osteopenia. And then she took another bone density test, expecting that it would advance to osteoporosis.
Right.
It had reversed back to normal.
You
she didn't
are
even
kidding
have
me.
osteopenia.
Wow.
So, and that's what he said. Oh my God, I have to re-examine these results.
So what do you think is because people have accepted this for men without question, why is it so hard for us to get our head around the fact that this is also true for women?
Because the FDA does not approve it for women, and doctors are trained to respect what the FDA's judgment is, although they're also encouraged to use off-label treatments of drugs.
Right.
Doctors get together and have a conversation and say, I tried this drug for this particular thing and it worked this way. They can do that, and they're allowed to do that, but the momentum or the impetus of medical training for decades has been to listen to the FDA, and it's kind of a boys' world.
Right. And so for individuals, for anybody who doesn't know, off-label is a common practice in the medical community where doctors will prescribe a medication that isn't specifically designed for a certain application because they have found it to be effective. That's called off-label. So people do that in the psychotropic world all the time, and you're saying that you see a lot of that too.
We do. And another thing that Kathy and I do, once a week we put out a podcast or a healthcast on the internet. You can go to biobalancehealth.com, and there's a link on there for Healthcast. We have 335 episodes. They all run 20 to 30 minutes, and they're searchable by topic. So you can go to the website, you can look for the particular topic you're interested in, like breast cancer or loss of libido or diet, exercise programs, whatever we may have discussed, and you can find that and watch it. It's video.
So going back to what I'm saying my primary interest or concern is, do you see this having a profound impact on people's psychological well-being when they go through this treatment?
Yeah, because they get healthier and their moodiness evaporates and they feel stronger and have more energy. They also have issues. The reason that I got involved with this work in the first place is Dr. Mahon and I discovered we were seeing clients together because I would refer people to her for physical exams. She would refer people to me who were having emotional adjustments and marital problems. What happens if you have lost your libido and you and your wife are committed to one another and you don't have any desire for sex and months or years go by and you're not interested, at some point the couple has to make an accommodation. What are we going to do about sex? How are we going to understand this? Is this a personal rejection? Do you not love me anymore? If are you looking somewhere else? What's going on?
And anybody who's done therapy has had that conversation with a couple.
With a lot of them.
Right.
So then if you suddenly get the pellets and you get your libido back, it's an overnight change. So those adjustments or accommodations that you had made for years now have to be revisited and renegotiated. How am I to understand suddenly this new behavior on your part or new desire level on your part? So I got involved originally with Kathy to help write a chapter for her book on this concept. And then when she read my chapter, she asked me if I would work with her on her chapters, and that's how we wrote the book together.
And so when you say that there has to be a reevaluation, renegotiation of how we're approaching this once one person recaptures a libido, that could be on either side. That could be the man or the woman.
Yeah, like the guy could have decided instead of being frustrated about sex all the time, he would just work, he'd get in the garage and work on the car, he'd go play golf every day or whatever it might have been. Suddenly his wife's sitting at home all perky and happy and waiting for him to come home, and he's got 18 holes to play.
Right.
And so she calls him and says, "Where are you?"
And then she experiences that as a rejection.
Yes.
Because she says, "Hey, now I'm ready, and you're not available." And he's like, "Wait a minute, you told me that we weren't doing this anymore." He thinks he's doing what they agreed to, and so if there isn't that renegotiation, then that's going to cause a problem.
Well, sometimes there's the put up or shut up issue. He's complained about it for years, but now that she's in front of him saying, "Hey, I'm available, I want to do this," he's suddenly resistant because he has anxieties about performance.
Oh, okay. So then what is the prescribed course of action in that situation? He goes and gets his own evaluation?
And that's what often happens, yes. And that's what we recommend. And they can do that. All of the new patient package for men and women are downloadable on her website.
What's to stop them from just deciding to do this together as a couple?
Many people do. I mean, an awful lot of high percentage of her patient base are couples.
And they're coming in together as a couple?
Yes.
Wow. And that's then really essentially changing their lives.
I was at her office the other day doing some work, and a patient came in and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I know you. You're Brett Newcomb." And I said, "How would you know that?" And she said, "I watch your podcasts all the time." She said, "Actually, I'm from Ohio."
Okay, we are done with the third show. I am sorry I was not paying attention to the time. I apologize to my producer, Mr. Ladd. Thank you for being a part of the show. Remember, go down to Royal Gate Dodge. Tell them you heard about it on Psych with Mike. You will get the royal treatment at no charge. And I appreciate everybody who has listened. And we will be back next week. We've got something fantastic planned for you then. If you have any questions or comments, follow me on Twitter at MichaelMahon72. And we will see you next week.
This is Psych with Mike.
How will you spend your tax return? Will a new TV or the newest cell phone protect you when the unexpected happens? Wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. You and your family could be left helpless, waiting for a slow-acting FEMA to come to your rescue. In a disaster, local store shelves are emptied in just hours. Your tax return is your chance to be wise and be ready with Wise Food Storage. Wise Food Storage provides affordable, ready-made gourmet meals with a 25-year shelf life. Just add water and your family is eating delicious food instead of fighting for scraps in a food riot. Try it free. Order a no-obligation free sample meal delivered right to your front door. And for a limited time, make the most of your tax return. Place your order and get a huge 20% discount and free shipping. This big discount ends soon. Once done, you're set for 25 years. Be wise. Be ready with Wise Food Storage. Call now. 800-762-2881. 800-762-2881. 800-762-2881.
Hi, I'm Kelly Clarkson, and I've toured the country dozens of times, and there's one thing I see everywhere: childhood hunger. The sad truth is that 17 million kids struggle with it. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers up surplus food and gets it to hungry kids. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
KFTK FM, Florissant. KFTK AM, East St. Louis. K254CR, St. Louis.
Powered by thehomeloanexpert.com.
FM News Talk 97.1.
Fox News Radio, I'm Kathleen Maloney. North Korea reportedly fired a ballistic missile just as President Trump is spending the weekend with the Prime Minister of Japan.
North Korea feels left out. No one's been talking about them. We've been talking about China, and we've been talking about Iran, and now Japan, Mexico. So, this is not unexpected.
Republican Congressman Chris Collins of New York speaking to Fox News. South Korea condemns the missile launch as a threat to peace and safety on the Korean peninsula. The White House says President Trump has been briefed and is monitoring developments. President Trump may issue a new executive order on immigration early next week with the hope it will fare better in the courts than his temporary travel ban on immigrants from 7 mostly Muslim countries.
This time, the White House has the advantage of experience. It's already heard the rulings from a number of judges across the country, and those